Hello Wolfpack. History has been made on Bitcoin for the first time in Bitcoin's price history. We have convincingly closed below the 200-week SMA. If we zoom in on that candle on the Bitcoin index chart here, we can see a clear cut. What is that? Maybe let's see the percentage here. It's an 8% close below the 200-week SMA. We've seen a 2% close below it before. That wasn't convincing, right? It was just a little fake out. This is an 8% close. You're not going to get much clearer than that. That is a breakdown. So we have made history. History has been made. We've never done this before. And the sad part about it is, and the scary part about it is, this leaves us completely in the dark about what happens next for Bitcoin, because the only indication of where the macro bottom would be for Bitcoin was based off of a 200-week SMA. And now that that is gone, gone, it's thrown in the bin. What do we have? Well, we don't have much, right? We have speculation. We have blind speculation. That's all it is. And this is why I haven't been too confident about my prediction on where the bottom is. Now, you guys know already. I mean, I'll say it again. Some people might not know who's watching the video for the first time, maybe. I'm not extremely confident about where the bottom will be. I think, if I had to guess, it would be at around 13.5k to 11.5k. And I think, if I had to guess, it would be around Q4, right? But I'm not confident. And I don't think anyone can be confident right now. Because as I said, the only macro indication of where the bottom would be has been lost. The 200-week SMA was the macro indication. It's gone. Now, people like Megawell Crypto, now fellow analyst, friend in the space, Megawell Crypto, I do collaborative videos with him all the time. Much respect for him. He's a great analyst. Would say that, hey, this trend line is confirming the bottom is in for Bitcoin, right? He thinks that the bottom is in for Bitcoin. He says, even though he thinks it's in, he says, for, by the way, he's not super confident in his prediction, but he does have to say it's in for Bitcoin. He said that. He said you should buy at 18k, bottom's in for Bitcoin. And he's pointing to this trend line for Bitcoin that goes straight up on the logarithmic chart. Now, my problem with this trend line is logarithmic chart trend lines have to fail eventually. So if I extend this trend line, right? And you can see the next bull market will be in 2025. He's assuming that essentially, well, he's not assuming it. I wouldn't say he's assuming it. I would not say that. But what I would say is that this line cannot simply go on forever. Logarithmic chart lines do not work forever. They fail eventually. Logarithmic lines need to be curved to adjust for diminishing returns. They can't go straight forever. It's simply mathematically impossible for the price to keep up with a logarithmic line. And so, assuming that it's going to hold here, yeah, you can assume that. But the problem with that as well is that there's only two trend dot points, right? It's not exactly a super strong trend line. You have a retest here and you have a retest here. By the way, this second retest didn't happen during the 2018 bottom. It actually happened during a black swan event of a COVID drop. Now, that doesn't mean it's any less relevant, but it is an example of how, well, for example, in 2015, even in 2015, the bottom was actually in over here before the trend line was retest. But, he's talking about the second retest on both these occasions. This retest might not have even happened if the COVID drop didn't occur. And so it does kind of put into question the validity, can't say that word, validity of that trend line, I guess. And, given the fact that it's on a logarithmic chart, the straight line on the logarithmic chart as well, it kind of does put a little doubt in there. And then also adding to that, we have a 200-week SMA, which we've lost. By the way, the 200-week SMA, in my opinion, is much more prominent than this upwards yellow trend line, because the 200-week SMA not only marked the macro bottom on both bear market occasions like this trend line did, but the price actually bounced off of it for long periods of time, right? So 10 months there. This is 5 months over here. This is a month over here. That's much stronger than this yellow trend line. And so losing the 200-week SMA, which by the way is something we've never done before, that is much stronger than the yellow trend line, is probably a lot harder to do than losing this, relatively weak yellow trend line that we've only retested twice. And so given the fact that we've lost the 200-week SMA, which is much, much, much stronger and a lot more people know about it, I would say it's incredibly likely that we lose this yellow trend line. However, you can't hate him, right? You can't hate Megawell. He's out here giving solid analysis and saying, well, this is a macro trend line we haven't lost. And he's right. He's right. We have never lost this trend line before. And for that reason, it wouldn't be the worst thing to do to take a low risk trade position off of that trend line and then wait for a confirmed breakout. But at this point, I don't have much confidence in this trend line. I personally don't think it's going to hold. And to be honest, I don't necessarily think he's super confident in it either. I mean, he said that the macro situation is terrible, and so I'd respect him for that. But what we can say, just speaking about the macro situation as well, it is pretty fucking terrible, right? We've got a macro fractal here from the 2008 drop. I mean, if you look at the 2008 correction here, all we need to do is zoom back. Obviously, 2008 was a global financial crisis, as you guys would know. And this is what it looked like there, right? Zooming out, that's what it looked like. You just take a fractal directly from there. You can see already just by looking at this chart, there's intense similarities. And you apply that fractal straight into what we have here in 2022. And you can see we're following that fractal pretty much bloody perfectly, right? I mean, we had an upwards run. We had a top, right? We had a correction here, a bottom, an upwards run, a double top formation, a W formation kind of scalp from the bottom, another top, another bottom, and we're kind of plummeting now, right? So it's a very rough guideline, but it is very much playing out. And some people say, well, you know, fractals don't work out very often. Fractals don't work. Fractals are unreliable. Yeah, they are. You know, they are unreliable. But occasionally you will find a fractal that does work. And this fractal is 80% completed. And guess what? It's working out pretty bloody well, right? And if it does continue to work out pretty bloody well, which again, it's working out pretty bloody well, right? It's going to take us all the way down here to around 2,800 on the S&P 500, using 1 month room for error because fractals are rough guidelines, and using 10% room for error. We're looking at anywhere in this green box for the S&P 500 to bottom out, which would be anywhere between 3,000 and 2,600, anywhere between August and October. As you guys would know, specifically talking about October, I've been thinking for a long time, based on the 4-year cycle theory, that Q4, which is October, is going to be the macro bottom for Bitcoin. Now, the 4-year cycle theory, I'm going to get into short-term analysis in a second, don't worry. 4-year cycle theory is based on date ranges, right? And so we've got date ranges here stemming out throughout the entire history of Bitcoin, and all of those date ranges are pointing through. You can pause the chart and take a look, it's very convincing, pointing to around November this year. But, you know, given that room for error, I'm looking at October to December, hence I'm looking at Q4, and given the fact that this fractal on the S&P 500 is looking at October, I think October is probably the most likely bottom at this point on Bitcoin. And again, I think 13.5k to 11.5k is the most likely price. But even though I'm saying all of this, you know, I've said yesterday, I made very clear in yesterday's video, I don't think it's physically possible, not physically, whatever it is, I don't think it's actually possible, logically possible, to be confident in a bottom prediction right now, due to the fact that we have such a wide variety of evidence, but it's all very, very vague, right? There's no concrete evidence that we're just looking at that's saying, all right, that's going to be the bottom, it's going to be on this date, and that's very, very likely. No, it's not like that. It's like, well, this could be the bottom, this could be the date. That's what's kind of, it's a bit of like hit or miss at the moment. So yeah, I think 13.5k to 11.5k around October probably would be the bottom, but again, you know, that's probably got to, you know, at this point, it's probably 60% chance of playing out. So there's a lot of room for me to be wrong there. I'm not extremely confident in it. And that's why I think that in a bear market, you should be more focused on trying to find a trend reversal point rather than a bottom. And this is where we're getting into the short-term analysis here. And so Bitcoin on the short-term analysis, you know, it actually does, and I guess you could say medium term, it doesn't even look too bad, right? It actually doesn't look too bad. And this is where we could get into a scenario where Bitcoin could actually bounce off of this trend line for a little bit, right? But ultimately lose it later in the year and come down for a Q4 bottom. I think that's entirely possible. And I think that will fake a lot of people out, because a lot of people are obviously looking at this trend line right now, including Megawell, right? And they're thinking, okay, if we see a bounce here, we could see a bull market continuation, right? We might see a small bounce, everyone will buy back into the market, and then bang, crash, and we'll go back down to the ultimate macro bottom, which I think will be at 13.5k to 11.5k, maybe, right? Yeah, and the reason why I think a bounce is you know, probably a little bit more likely than not here is the fact that we have a strong descending channel formation, which is a bullish formation. We've recently retested the bottom of that channel formation, and it would kind of, it would make sense for us to see an upswing to the top side of it, at least at around 23.8k. And then even if we, you know, see a break to the upside, we'd probably go to about 28.6k at the maximum before rejecting. And then, you know, we've got a shorter term, looking at the even shorter term, within the descending channel, we've got another descending channel, which is a shorter term bullish pattern. We could see another swing to the downside, could see a swing to about 17.1k here, and then a break to the upside to around 23.8k, or even up to the top of the channel, which would be looking at that 28.6k area. So yeah, I do think it's entirely possible. right? I do think it's entirely possible, and I talked about this quite a bit. I do think it's entirely possible for Bitcoin to see a dead cat bounce, potentially as high as 28.6K, most likely to 23.8K. I think that's entirely possible. I don't think there's anything wrong with a dead cat bounce in this price region. I also understand the fact that right now TA is taking a backseat, and this is something that people are getting very uncomfortable with. They're getting very uncomfortable in my videos of me saying, oh yeah, well, I think this is going to happen, but also might not, right? They're being uncomfortable with me ultimately being indecisive. And there's a reason why I'm being indecisive. I'm being indecisive because there's no reason for me to be decisive right now, right? The S&P 500 is very much in a strong downtrend. It's tanking by the day. What Bitcoin charts are telling us are not necessarily the number one priority right now. What is the number one priority is where the S&P 500 goes, because Bitcoin is strongly connected to the S&P 500, right? So this thing and this fractal saying, oh yeah, this thing's going to dump way more. Well, it kind of just throws off all of my Bitcoin analysis, doesn't it? But what I can say is that, yeah, I think a bounce is slightly more likely here. But what I can say is that, if we drop below the channel, so you should draw up this channel in your chart for sure. If we drop below the channel, that would invalidate that bounce entirely. But so long as we're in the channel, it's most likely that we see a bounce, right? That's what I would say. And so, yeah. Interesting stuff for Bitcoin. Not really too much to say about it other than that. I think that, to summarize this video in a quick little, knot here, I guess you could say we've made history. We've lost a 200-week SMA. We're in the dark. There are vague macro indications like this uptrending line. It's probably unlikely to hold, although we might see a bounce off of it to a maximum of 28.6K. That would be the summary of the video. Okay, so before we end the video, I want to look at a few things, and then I'll let you guys go. First and foremost, Wolves of Crypto VIP. Go over to my YouTube channel, click on the join button, and you can see all the perks we've got available. I want to talk about this specifically today because we've got a new perk that's been added, right? So new content added to it. Access to my trading view charts has been added there, which means that weekly to my VIP members, I will post links to my trading view charts so they can look at it, they can monitor it, they can edit those charts, they can do whatever they want. I think they can edit them. They can do whatever they want with those charts. So for example, my 4-year cycle chart, a lot of people don't want to take the time to draw that up. I'll chuck a link in for the VIPs. They can look at that chart. They can look at my new analysis on that chart every single week, and they can follow along with my analysis or just look at what I'm looking at, which is very, very important. Additionally, a 2-hour video on market psychology, prioritized reply to comments, exclusive altcoin trading signals, one every second day. Storage, which is a trading signal we had before, just printed 30% or 25% in the last 48 hours that we posted just 48 hours ago. Beautiful trade there. Lots of trades have been pumping, getting some good profits, especially during this drop because we had short trades in there as well. Speaking of short trades, so go ahead and join up if you want there. And then speaking of short trades, BitGet Exchange. This is the exchange we use for shorting and longing. Now, usually we use spot on long trades. We don't like to long for no reason, add leverage for no reason. I actually like to do 1x leverage. I don't necessarily agree with leverage. However, some people do. And so if you want to use leverage on the VIP channel, you can, you're welcome to. However, I just like using 1x shorts and then spot position as longing. And so if you want to use leverage though, and you want access to 1x shorts, this is the exchange you're going to go for BitGet Exchange. This is what we use for the VIPs. Half the fees are Binance, non-KYC. You can't go wrong with it. Go ahead and sign up using our referral link in the description or the pinned comment below, and you can get access to over $4,000 in rewards for completing a few nice little easy tasks. And then over on the Crypto Academy website here, we've got the Become a Trader, a 10-unit course. Now, I've spoken about Megawell quite a bit in this video here. Megawell is a fellow analyst of mine. We work together quite closely. We do collabs every fortnight, and we've actually decided to go ahead and make a Crypto Academy course, so a trading course. Learn how to trade, learn how to do analysis, learn how to do TA. That's what this is, and you can learn everything you need to know about TA, essentially fundamental concepts, market patterns, indicators, candlesticks, profitable mindsets, advanced risk management, how to find trades, everything you need to know is in this course right here. And all you need to do is go and click on the bottom of the page here, and you can see the email. This is the Crypto Academy courses at gmail.com. Chuck us an email. We'll chuck you the payment details. We'll chuck you a preview of what the course looks like and a more extensive analysis of what the course actually is, so you can look at all of that before you buy. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.